First of all, I really appreciate the presentation. I think it's fascinating to see how we got where we are. But I think what we struggle with on a daily basis is how do we get out of this? And I think it comes down to the chicken versus the egg question. I think there are a lot of people that we know the big companies bought the mall property. We're looking forward to redevelop, but quite frankly, we've been looking forward to redevelop for a very long time. So do we wait for something to happen and then plan the development, which came in 1984 and we hope comes again, surrounding the mall? We wait for the development and then do that, or do we plan for the development first and then move from there? I mean, which is the way we should go?
Well, if you're talking about planning in the larger context, I think you have to do that in terms of the city overall. You have to do that so you don't wake up one morning not knowing whether you have issues in some other part of town that also need attention. And I'm not saying that you don't, but you need to have that background information that gives you that basis. I don't think, here's the problem that you're faced with and you're not alone. You could advertise for development proposals tomorrow for Crestwood Plaza, and I don't think you'd get any. And the reason you wouldn't is not, I think, because there wouldn't be some enthusiasm for the site. The problem is that right now, and for at least some foreseeable future, and I say that, and I think for 2 years, maybe another 18 months, something of that magnitude just isn't, financing's not going to be there. Banks, I mean, what I watch, Barnes is a perfect example. You have two projects with one big project with a TIF bond issue, and the other one with your TDD that comprises the other quadrants of that interchange. And look what it's taken with numbers that are good, with developers that are good. In other words, you've got all of the right equation and virtually or very little vacancy. And it's been tough to put a deal together that made financial sense. And so, even in a situation like that, it hasn't been easy. This one is even tougher, and yet you have to work to make something happen at the plaza, because whatever happens there is what's going to make the rest of the territory desirable again. I mean, look at what happened when Shop and Save went into Watson Plaza. It's now my favorite Mexican restaurants there. There's a cause and effect to the stuff, but it's got to happen at the plaza, and I don't know that you can get anybody better than you've already got in today's environment. Now, I wouldn't give them, as you see the economy improving, I'm going to stand up here and tell you that I wouldn't give them too much rope. You can't get caught in the same thing you got caught in before, where, Westfield said, yeah, we're going to do something, and never did anything. Or when they came to you with something that was bizarre and stupid, quite frankly.
Thank you. Anyone else? Jeff, did you have anything you wanted to comment, being liaison, or hold off? All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Recaglio, for your time this evening. Very enlightening presentation. something that I know I think the city needs to look at. Okay. Any other comments? Jeff, now is your time.
I just, not on my time. I think you gave me a couple of chances. I think one of the first things, or one of the first meetings, I think the first meeting that I attended, Forrest had kind of asked, I think, the board the question, what are we missing from the makeup of the group, from things that we hear about, and listening to John tonight, it kind of brought me back to that question, and I think my answer is still the same, is what is we've heard from urban planners, we've heard from other businessmen, Forrest has spoken at some of the Board of Alderman meetings, but we really haven't heard from a developer. We're talking about doing something to attract somebody like that, and while John may be an expert in his field, he's certainly not on that other side of the table. Yes, he's probably very skilled in what it is that they do look for. He pointed out a magazine article that talked about demographics. Obviously, you guys look at demographics for your businesses. My company does the exact same thing. And to maybe hear from a developer might be beneficial to the group. We talk about, I'm sure that one of the logical next steps with John would be to look at the land use, look at whether or not, are we talking about just leaving everything commercial, or are we talking about moving things out of commercial? When you look at the map, certainly we can see how things are zoned today, which gives you a pretty good idea of kind of how our businesses are laid out within the area. But to really kind of get a full picture, I think would be beneficial. And then it helps answer questions of, what is the EDC, what is the purpose? And then you look at taking the information that's been provided, making recommendations, and then passing it along to the Board of Aldermen for them to decide what, if anything, they're going to do with that, along with Jim, obviously. But I think to put those extra cards on the table, I think would be beneficial.
In response to that, we did have the developer who, where Starbucks is, I can't remember what his name is off the top of my head. Well, and Gruy has been at one of our meetings before. I think it was Robinson, Gary, or it might have even been Chris that were still all under Mitchell and all the gals that were on the liaison at that point. So we have had developers come in. And I think, one of the things that we did do, I know we gave him that vote of confidence to, the city needed to do something with the development where that is now. And albeit I don't think it's all the way completely 100% done as what their original plan was, it is there. So he did do and did move forward with that. I know the board would be open to have someone else come in and speak again to that matter. Whether or not we do push the button for somebody from the Crestwood Court to try and be here and be a spokesperson, whether or not it's their property manager for that location, and sort of put the screws to them from our standpoint, from a commission standpoint, where they need to know that people are listening and that other people want action, and that's sort of what our role is as citizens of the community, to ask him or her those kinds of questions. So I guess that would be something that maybe Jim could look into.